So, hi everyone, this should be live now. Going to give it a couple of seconds just to troubleshoot on our end that the presentation has begun. Okay then, so hi everyone, this is the beginning of this year's Hackathon launch webinar. So we are launching the run by the data science team, as being NISR. Going straight into it, so we'll start with some housekeeping. I think this presentation with the slides and all of the associated links will be shared afterwards. So please don't worry about missing anything in the presentation. We'll also be uploading it online, so you'll be able to re-watch any parts that are unclear. With that, let's go into the contents of the presentation. So we're going to start with an introduction to NISR and NISR data science. We're then going to go through the hackathon information. So there'll be some general information about the hackathon. We'll then go through the hackathon challenge itself, some key dates, then the eligibility and requirements for the different teams, some evaluation criteria that we'll be using for this year's competition, and then the submission guidelines, so how you're able to submit for this year's competition. We'll then do a quick demonstration of some of the technologies that we want you to use this year. This includes R Shiny, Python Plotly Dash, and Python Streamlit. We'll then give you some hints and tips and finish with some additional resources that you can go through on your own time to help you with this year's challenge, and finish with any immediate questions that you have. For the questions, please feel free to put them in the YouTube comments as the presentation goes on. And what we'll do is I will ask some of my colleagues here to send them to me or notify me at the end of the ones which are most common, if there are a number of them to sort through. I'll also go through the comments at the end and kind of do it in real time. So without further ado, let's crack on with the presentation. So the National Institute of Statistics Rwanda was created in October 2005. The mission of our institution is to assume a leading role in improving capacity to use information for evidence-based decision-making in Rwanda. And our vision is to develop and sustain a culture of excellence in statistical production and management of national development. As a primary data producer, NISR produces mandatory statistics, including gross domestic product, consumer price index, and the census. NISR Data Science is a team that was created here in 2021, so we're approximately 3 years old. Our mission specifically is to scope and deliver data science and big data projects that support NISR to achieve its mandate of supporting evidence-based decision-making across government. Past projects for the data science team include the automatic matching of the post-enumeration survey to the census. So this moved a process that used to take 6 months down to just 3 weeks. Our current projects include automation of the CPI pipeline. So this is the kind of basic construction of the consumer price index from VBA into R. And we're also working on a project using satellite imagery and machine learning techniques to classify crops in Python. Moving on now to the hackathon competition. So some general information. This will be our second annual hackathon. The aim of the hackathon is to raise awareness of data science for official statistics amongst students. We really want to give you an opportunity to learn and develop new skills in programming languages. And we also really want to identify emerging talents in Rwanda for data science and to identify new ideas that the data science team at NISR can pursue in collaboration with some of those students. The challenge this year, so we have two challenges. The first one is to select a common and well-known issue faced by Rwandan youth. So I think we need to clarify if this is 0 to 25 or 0 to 30. I think 0 to 25 is the classification used by the UN, but as Lionel said in the questions chat this morning, Rwanda may define it as 0 to 30 and offer a data science solution to this problem. So an example of a well-known problem for youth in Rwanda may be things such as unemployment, poverty, or teenage pregnancy. The second challenge is to highlight a less recognized or emerging issue affecting young Rwandans and to propose a data science solution for this. For either of these options, we want you to use at least one data set from NISR and one non-NISR data set. So this can be any combination of these two things, as long as there is at least one of each. So for example, you could use 5 data sets from NISR and 1 from the UN, or you could use 1 from NISR and 5 from various sources, such as like the UN, the World Bank, or anything that you're able to find online that helps you to kind of do these challenges. In this context, a data science solution means using data analysis, visualization, or modeling to gain new insights about the problem, make predictions related to the problem, or propose data-supported interventions to address the problem. So to go into a little bit more detail about the two challenges, and I think this can also be refined in some of the questions later on if it's not clear enough, is that for the first challenge, we expect you to be much more focused on the solution aspect of the challenge. So because, for example, unemployment is quite a well-known issue about Rwandan youth, we are much more interested in your ability to provide a good solution to this problem. For challenge number 2, where we want you to highlight a less recognized or emerging issue affecting young Rwandans, we're going to be giving a bit more focus and weight in the scoring of your app to your ability to identify and demonstrate that this is a problem that people are unaware of. We still expect a solution, but there will be a slightly more weighting compared to the first one on the issue/problem being identified than the solution itself. Within the context of the challenge number 1, there will also be some recognition if you're able to identify something new about one of these well-known issues. So for example, if you were able to show that unemployment in certain districts is due to a factor that hadn't previously been considered, this would also be given some weight independent of your solution to that problem. I hope that's relatively clear, but again, we can come back to that if there are any questions. So some key dates associated with the hackathon this year. Obviously, we're starting with this launch webinar on the 15th of October. The first submission deadline, so this is the first date, is the 10:59 p.m. So I believe this is a Sunday night. And what this means is that for the first stage submission, which we'll go through in subsequent slides, we want you to have completed the submission form by this time so we can evaluate your submission as a team. The bootcamp finalists, of which there will be 30 people, which represents 10 teams from that first stage submission, will be notified on the 20th of November. We will then have our bootcamp finals from roughly a week from probably the 1st to the 10th of December, though this is still subject to some slight changes. What will happen at the bootcamp is we will expect the teams to refine and work on the projects they submitted as part of the first stage. We will have some experts there to help with some mentoring, and we'll also give some presentations and training at the bootcamp to give you some general guidance and help for improving your first stage submission version. At the end of the week, the finalists will then present to a panel of judges, and a winner or 3 winning teams will be decided upon. The date of the competition winner announcement is still to be confirmed. So we expect that would be sometime in either late December or early January, but it's still to be decided within the institution, and we'll let you know as soon as possible when that will be. In terms of eligibility and requirements, so for this year's hackathon, we are moving to having teams of 3 people. Each team member must be currently enrolled in university, and at least 1 team member should be a final year student with Rwandan citizenship. Proof of student status will be required. So when we get to the bootcamp stage, if your team is selected, we will ask you to prove that you're a student. So please do not enter if you are not a currently enrolled university student. If you currently do not have a team, in the WhatsApp group, you will see that I've made a chat called something to do with teams, and you will be able to join that and identify other people who do not have enough team members. So I think use this chat if you're a single person looking to join a team, or if you are a team of 2 that needs 1 extra person. Please try not to use the questions chat to organize the teams if you are not in one or don't have enough people. We want to keep that really focused on questions to do with the specific administration and running of the hackathon. Next is the evaluation criteria. So this is roughly what you will be scored on when you submit your entry to the hackathon competition. So number 1 is relevance to the theme. What this means is that we will assess the extent to which you've correctly identified and selected a problem, and to what extent your solution is useful for that problem. Data utilization and accuracy. So does the data you've selected accurately help you assess the problem and identify a solution for it? Have you visualized things correctly with the appropriate charts? And have you cleaned the data well if there are any data quality issues associated with the data frames you've chosen? The user interface and user experience. So how easy is it to work with your app? How good does it look? If there's some complexity towards what you're trying to show, how are you able to maybe use words or like different visualizations to make that as clear as possible for the person interacting with the app? Number 4, creativity and innovation. So I think this is actually going to be a big component. The challenges we've set this year are actually quite broad, and I think there's a lot of scope for you to be creative in terms of selection of your problem, identifying solutions, and really kind of surprising and exciting us with what you're able to do with different data sets being combined. There's also some space for creativity and innovation in terms of your presentation of the data. So for example, are you using perhaps some old data, but visualized in a new way that is interesting, exciting to bring out some kind of new insights? And then finally, number 5 is impact and scalability. So we want to assess to what extent is your problem identification or solution able to have impact for policymakers. And scalability means, so for example, if your project focuses specifically on Kigali, could we scale up your solution to the whole of Rwanda? To what extent is your solution focused on like one specific area, but then kind of generalizable to a number of different ones afterwards? Finally, on the kind of hackathon information is the submission guidelines. So we are expecting and will only be accepting a dashboard or app based in either R Shiny, Plotly Dash, or Python Streamlit. We want this dashboard that you've created to be uploaded to the web. So I have some recommended ways of doing this because each of these technologies have a free web server functionality. So for Shiny, there is shinyapps.io. For Dash, there is Python Anywhere. And for Streamlit, there is streamlit.io. As long as we are able to access your dashboard in an online platform, you can use any uploading technique or website that you want to. These are just the recommended ones that I have found. Secondly, we want it to be uploaded to a public GitHub repository. So we want to be able to interact with your app as it's uploaded, and we also want to be able to look at the underlying code for that app in your GitHub repository. The link for the submission form will be posted on the NISR website, and we will share it in the next few weeks as it's created. We'll also ask you for some basic information, such as the names of your team members, where they go to university, what you're studying, and we also want contact information. Really make sure on the submission form that each of these components of information is correct. It is really important that you correctly link to your online dashboard. It's really important we're able to find your GitHub, and it's really important that your contact information is correct. So if there are any issues, we are able to get in touch with you and assist in any way to ensure that your submission is correctly assessed. With all of that done, so that's the hackathon information. What we're going to do is now a quick demonstration of each of these technologies and how you can kind of get started with uploading your app into the web. So we're going to start with our Shiny and shinyapps.io. Here is just a basic list of the thing that you do to upload your app into the shinyapps.io website. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create an account using shinyapps.io. You can follow the documentation provided on the shinyapps.io website to connect your RStudio or app to your account. You can then publish this directly to Shiny Apps, and when changes are made to your app, you'll need to just redeploy/republish it. In this workflow, you would separately upload the project to GitHub, and I'll kind of show you the first few steps just now as a basic demonstration. So if we first go online here into shinyapps.io, once you've made your account, what you should see is this dashboard. There won't be an application here. There is for mine because I've already set this up. You come in here to your kind of profile and your tokens. What you'll see here is a token with a secret address, and you can click here on show, which will give you the token and for the connected account called JackD NISR1. Hit apply and then OK. What we want to do now is test our app. So this is going to look exactly like all the default apps that you guys will make when you do this on your own. And it's essentially old faithful geyser data. And you can see we have some basic functionality with this slider to look at the number of or the frequency of waiting times in a histogram. For the first time that you do this, instead of saying republish here, it will say publish. And you can click on this drop down to choose where you want it to be uploaded. And when you hit this, it will run a kind of uploading process to put it into your online system. If we come here, go to my dashboard again, you'll find that your web app is now here, and you can click on it, and right here, click on the URL, and it will load your app. So what happens is when your app hasn't been used for a certain amount of time, Shiny Apps will sleep your app because it only has a certain amount of time each month that you're able to run it, which is approximately 25 hours on their servers using the free version. Because of this, I would really recommend that you don't spend a huge amount of time testing it in online page. Test all of your changes and your running of the code locally, and then just use the online version to make sure that everything works as intended. What I would also suggest is probably making a new account at the point of submission, just so it's fresh and we're able to use it in our assessment of the submission. And then if we come here, you can see publicly accessible version of the web app we have in our RStudio instance. And it'll be a bit slower than on the local machine because it's using online servers, but it retains all of that basic functionality. The next one that we're going to look at is Python Plotly Dash. So the basic workflow for this is to create an account with Python Anywhere, to create an app using Plotly Dash in the kind of environment of your choice. So I think VS Code is quite popular, PyCharm is quite popular. You can do it in Jupyter Notebooks, though it can be a bit harder to work with. You'll then link your Python Anywhere account with your GitHub account and clone your app to Python Anywhere. You then need to set up a virtual environment and change the settings for the flag make in Python Anywhere. And when you update your app, use the to do it directly in your Python Anywhere account. This is a bit more complicated than the other technologies to go through live. And what I've done is I've recommended a video. It's about 25 minutes long, which shows you end to end how to do this process of uploading your Plotly Dash app into Python Anywhere correctly and getting it all set up. The other thing I've recommended and linked is a video which shows you how to link your GitHub and Python Anywhere accounts in a bit more of an advanced way than above, and also how to make changes to your app once it is connected using the bash screen and Git. The third technology is Python Streamlit. This is probably the easiest one to use. What you can do is create an account at streamlit.io. I would recommend doing this linking your GitHub account. And once you've done that, you're able to either upload your app directly into Streamlit or create a basic app using the Streamlit functionality and website, and then download that and work from the basic app that they've created in your repository on GitHub. So I'll kind of show you what I mean by this, and any updates are automatically pushed through if you're using a GitHub linked repository. So if we come back in here and we go to my shiny.io account, or my streamlit.io account, sorry, which is linked to my GitHub, you can see down here that they have some get started from a templates. So if I just use the blank app template, click here, I can choose what I want the repository associated with this to be called, and then hit deploy. If I come back to my apps, I've already done this process, and we can click on the app that was created, and you'll see that it is just a really basic app with not really any functionality, and it has this GitHub link in the top right-hand corner. So if we click on that, you'll see that this is my GitHub account associated with that Streamlit app. And what I would be able to do is then go into the repository, clone this onto my local machine, make any changes, push them, and they'll be directly uploaded into the Streamlit app. So again, I think this is the easiest one to work with, but at the same time, Streamlit has a bit less customizability and functionality options compared to Plotly Dash and to RShiny. So it's really a personal choice in terms of what you're comfortable with, in terms of like previous experience. So if you worked with R before, you might be more comfortable with Shiny. If you worked with Python before, one of Python options, and also just your comfortability with the technical side of uploading these to the web using these different technologies. The next thing is just some hint tips. So the first one is make sure to use the time wisely. So they're about 3.5 or 4 weeks until the submission deadline. I think the best to do is over the coming week into the weekend is sit down as a team, make a plan of what you're going to do and stick to it. So divvy up responsibilities, make sure everyone has things to do, and work together on your kind of problem and its solution together on a kind of regimented and organized way. The second thing is over fancy aesthetics. It's much more important and like it looks really good or fancy, or you're utilizing some really advanced techniques that maybe aren't as clear or maybe don't result in a good solution to the problem you're looking at. We really care about you doing it well as opposed to doing it in a way that uses things you don't understand. The same comes with data visualization. So I think last year what we found was that people could get a bit carried away with using fancier looking data visualization. Actually, a simpler and more focused one would have been better for that use case. And it's really up to you to use your judgment on kind of where that line is between functionality and being fancy for the sake of it. The third one, which is kind of similar to using your time wisely, is make sure you're working as a team. So you're in teams of 3. Each of you will have different skill sets. Each of you will bring different things to the table. Have a think about that. Have a think about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then evenly divide the tasks along those lines. So if you have someone that's very good at doing the user interface coding, maybe give them that. If you have someone that's perhaps a statistician and understands some of the modeling or the underlying statistics really well, you can give them that. Finally, we want you to have, which obviously everyone wants to do as well as possible. We know but we really want everyone who participates in this competition to learn some new skills, particularly that they're able to use in their future university and working lives. So over the course of the next few weeks, we will also try and run a few more kind of webinars, kind of work in the competition. And we're also going to try and bring back some people from last year who did well to give you some of their thoughts and reflections that might help you in terms of just how you think about the competition and kind of how you compete and do your submission. Finally, I'm going to talk about some additional resources. So this is a webinar that we've ran. The presentations for both the previous presentation and this one will be on my GitHub account in the repository webinar materials. This link will be shared after the presentation, both in the description of this live stream and in the WhatsApp group. The previous live stream I did, which is on how to use GitHub, which is a really useful skill for both working as a team and kind of making it easy for you to upload your stuff to the web, is linked in this presentation. I would advise you to watch that and to listen to, there's some additional materials within that and where to look if you're not confident in those skills. There's now some additional resources for each of the different technologies that we expect you to use. So shinyapps.io has their own documentation page. This is super useful in terms of describing all of the basic functionality, how to get started uploading your app, how to make changes, and just like the different functionality options you have within a Shiny app. They have a gallery with some example applications, which we've linked. So you can go here and look at projects that people have done before. It can be really useful for some inspiration about how to visualize things. And we also have introduction to our Shiny with some textbooks that go a bit more in depth about how to use different plotting technologies and how to integrate them into a Shiny app. The Epidemiologist, our handbook, also has a really useful section on how you can make functions which do dynamic data kind of modeling with an R Shiny app. So I'd really recommend that one. For Plotly Dash, so again, the Dash website provides detailed documentation about how to use both Plotly and Dash. They have an app gallery as well that has some example applications. I've linked one specifically that's a simple demonstration of the functionality of Dash and Python. So the second thing I'm linking is a YouTube series, which is run by someone, or run by the channel Charming Data. So this was linked in the previous section in terms of how to upload your Dash app to Python Anywhere. But he has a really good set of videos showing you how to do various things in the Dash ecosystem that can really help you if this is the technology you choose to use. And Streamlit, so again, they have their own documentation on their website. I've linked a specific app, and they have a range of apps in their gallery, which will show you a range of projects that use different data to visualize different things. And I've also linked here the winning presentation from the UN 2022 Youth Datathon. So they use Streamlit for their app. You can watch them presenting it. I would really recommend, even if you're not using Streamlit, to watch this presentation, just to get a clearer picture of what a data science solution can be to a problem and how you might approach this challenge in a way that will help you do well in the competition. We were going to do the Q&A here. Quickly, I realized that I forgot to just go through the NISR website and show you where you can find data. So I'll do that now, and then we'll move on to any questions that you guys have. So coming in here, if you go to the main page of the National Institute of Statistics Rwanda, so statistics.gov.rw/home, and come into publications, you'll see that there are a huge number of publications that NISR does. For youth in particular, we might want to focus on some of the things in the education, labor and justice section, or in the population, health and poverty. One that I've brought out is the EICV thematic youth report, which has an associated Excel that has a bunch of information on youth across a number of different metrics that you could use to look at. Kind of here we have their economic activity. There's a range of things that might be useful for you to kind of talk about or use in your proposed solution and problem. The other thing that you can access is here in the data portals and going into the microdata and open data inventory. So to do this, you'll need to come in here. We have a central data catalog, which shows you all the different ones you can access. And once you've selected something you want to look at, what you'll need to do is kind of hit get microdata and register to access this. This may take a little bit of time, so if you think you're going to be wanting to use this data, make sure you register as soon as possible. Whereas the information from here should be published online and much easier to access on short notice. That's the end of the presentation that I've prepared for today. I'm now gonna kind of turn it off, take a second and look at the YouTube comments, and then we can crack on with any questions that are in there that you guys want answered. And I think, yeah, we'll see how it goes, and I'll hang about for a little bit of time just in case someone has anything that they want to add. So we've got a question on using Kaggle datasets. So that is allowed. Basically, the only requirement on the datasets is that it should be relevant to the problem that you are trying to prove or solve. And specifically, it's relating to Rwanda. So yeah, if you find a Kaggle data set that has relevance to the problem or solution you're trying to look at, that is completely acceptable. And it's really up to you if that's what you want to do. Okay, so the next question is where are we going to get the data sets? So you can get the data sets from either the NISR website or that microdata platform for the NISR ones. For the NISR data, find something that is relevant. I think it's most likely going to be from UN sources, World Bank sources. However, as said before, if you can find something relevant somewhere else, that's totally fine for you to use. Is it allowed to integrate some HTML or CSS codes in building Shiny for UX UI? Yes, as long as your code is able to run in the online platform that you upload it to, and it is within the technologies that we have listed. So specifically, the dashboarding technologies of R Shiny, Python Streamlit, and Python Dash, that is completely fine. So addressing solutions, yes, we want you to be creative and use your own ideas here. You do not have to necessarily limit yourself to one problem, though I think we want it to be quite focused in the sense of if you suggest a problem, there must be a solution. And I think we will be assessing it based on the quality of your discussed problem and the quality of your solution. So if you choose to do multiple problems, multiple solutions, it really needs to be to a high standard, because we won't be giving you extra marks just for doing a number of things. So I would say as a general rule, probably focus on one thing, focus on providing a really good solution to it. And yeah, so you can be like creative. You're not limited to the problems that I talked about before. We want you to try and identify new things that could be talked about or could be solved. Okay, I think we've kind of reached the end of the no more questions at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is wrap this up. And as I said, link to the slides, which has all of the associated links to find extra information. And we'll also be putting this in the WhatsApp for you guys to look at later.